Welcome to Beyond the Shelf. I'm Jenny.
And I'm Dawn.
Today we are going to have a lot of fun because Dawn and I just got back from a Supernatural Comic-Con. We spent the weekend in Columbus. We got to meet all these celebrities, and we're going to talk about what it's like to meet your heroes. Full disclaimer, though, I do not consider celebrities my heroes. That's just kind of a general term that people use. Mm-hmm. I lean more towards real life people that I know and
celebrities aren't
with.
Real.
Real life, they're not real in my life.
Okay, sure.
My heroes would be, more family oriented. Mm-hmm. But anyhow, I digress. But still, we're going to talk about what it was like to meet some celebrities. Did they meet our expectations? Did they exceed our expectations? Were they underwhelming? So we're going to talk about that. We're going to have some quotes from some people who have met celebrities for the first time and what they thought too. Mm-hmm. So Dawn, let's hear from you. What did you think about our Columbus trip?
Obviously, we were excited to go. Mm-hmm. My favorite actor from the show was not there, but I determined months ago I was not going to let myself be disappointed or down about the whole experience just because one person wasn't there.
Right.
This was my chance to meet various other people that I've been watching on my little computer screen for over a decade.
Almost 20 years now.
Yeah, almost 20 years now, right. I don't know that I went in with a lot of expectations. I like to let the situation be what it is. A lot of times, especially when I'm going into something I've never done before. That way, I can't be disappointed. I thought it was going to be this or that or whatever. And you get to live in the moment and actually experience it. I had a couple of moments that I wasn't expecting to be starstruck when I met people.
Me too.
There's the whole novelty of the fact that you've watched these people and maybe you followed them across different shows or
social media,
on social media, different things, other social projects and things that they do. But then you're actually face to face with them. And so, the first real experience I had was Jensen Ackles with that. When we went to do our photo op, we went around the curtain to where the photo was, and he was standing 20 feet from me. Yeah. And I think it took a moment for my brain to recognize that, that's actually this person.
Right.
That I've seen play this character. And I haven't watched anything else that Jensen's been in, so I haven't seen any of his acting in other places.
I've watched it all, pretty much.
So seeing him actually there, I actually felt really bad because there was an employee who worked for the convention who was helping move the line along, and I realized I was staring through this woman. To staring at, and I stopped and I was like, I am so sorry. I felt like I had to apologize to her. And she was like, I get it. Because, there's 1,000 of us. And for a lot of people who were there, this is the first time that you get to meet this person.
Right.
There are some people who are maybe an unhealthy amount of interested in this person. But, you get to know these characters when you've watched a show as long as I've watched Supernatural, and to see the person who brought that character to life, and that they also love that character, and they're right there.
Yeah,
I just found myself just staring, and I was not expecting that for Jensen, specifically Jensen Ackles. I was shocked.
I wasn't expecting to be as starstruck as I was. I do conversations in my mind with people all the time as preparation if I'm going to be talking to somebody. And all the things that I thought I might say to him, I don't know what they were. I literally was just I know I walked up to him and I said, congratulations on your new show, because he has a new show coming. And he's like, thank you. And then I was like, duh. I was like one of those
you lost all
cartoon.
Brain cells.
Yeah, I was like one of those cartoon persons with their eyes bugging out. And for one thing, he is an incredibly good-looking man. He really is. You see somebody on the screen. There's actors that are just good-looking. Chris Hemsworth, Ryan Reynolds. They're good-looking. Right. I did not expect him to be that good-looking in real life. I thought it was just
he didn't have
lights
the
and makeup.
Crew.
Exactly. And I was just really stunned by it. And he was very kind, and he was a gentleman. And there were so many. I think in total, there was 14 people there from the show. And I got autographs from everybody. what was interesting to me was how down to earth the majority of them were that I got to spend time with. Like some of them were just out in the vendor's room and you could go right up to them and talk to them and they listened to what you had to say. It was amazing to me.
When we went to get Samantha Smith's autograph, there was a point where my friend was talking to her and she put down her pen and she stopped and she like looked at you and listened and gave you her full attention.
Yeah.
I feel like there's a lot to it because these people are celebrities, but they're not like Chris Hemsworth. They're not like Marvel actors
George
that
Clooney,
like everybody knows who they are.
Yeah.
But they're still, you know, traveling across the country, across the world. They're meeting thousands of people every other day.
Yeah.
And
or at least every other weekend.
Every other weekend or whatever. Yeah. And for them to still take the time to make that moment
and
with
show
you.
And it seems like honest interest. Now, I realize they're actors, so they can act interested, but they truly, like you said, they make eye contact. They're not just trying to shove you away. There is a character on the show. He only went by the name of Death on the show. His name is Julian Richings, the actor. I don't know how old he is in real life, but I figured, you know, you see him, you kind of think they're going to be kind of like their character. I mean, I didn't think he was like going to kill us because his name's Death. He was so much fun. His energy, he did karaoke and he was like bouncing all over the stage. Is he 70?
He's 67.
67. Okay. I was going to guess 70, but.
So we're talking about all the makeup and the lights and whatever. So his character on the show, because he's playing Death, he looks very skeletal.
Yeah. Well, he's thousands of years old.
Right.
Yeah.
So then actually like meeting him in person, his photo op with Lisa Berry.
Yeah.
We did. And that was our first one. And when I saw him, I was like, why? He doesn't look like a skeleton in real life.
Doesn't look like real Death.
He doesn't actually look like Death. But he had so much energy too, and was just like so fun.
And such a gentleman. I had to use my cane, you know, for the weekend. And when I went to get my picture, he's like, "Here, take my hand, hold on to me." He was just such a gentleman and so kind. And I can't say enough about just overall, all of the cast. All of them were kind. There was not one person there that was, you know, rude. None of them were rude. They were all kind. They were all funny. They were all personable. Like you could really talk to them. It wasn't just a flyby. Now, some of the things went really quickly because there's thousands of people in line to get a picture.
Yeah.
And you do it really quickly.
So one of the other things, I mentioned this, I think, when we did our fandom episode, October 2022. And it was like our second episode, that the supernatural fandom, the collection of fans, is called The Family.
Yes.
And I think we got that sense.
For
How
sure.
many new friends did we make last weekend?
Oh, yeah.
So many. And I think even one of the actors during one of the panels like made a point that this is a family and they feel like their family as well. Even like the cast together. Yeah, so we got to like meet all of these people who were just like us and have watched the show enough times.
Yeah.
And so we thought, let's ask them.
Yeah.
These are people that you also admire. What did you think about the experience of meeting your heroes? And a few of them said, you know, these aren't really my heroes either, but they're people that, you know, we admire or that you feel a connection to because of the show.
Right. Dawn and I have this chat group that I started when we signed up to do the convention. So some of us all got together and we started rewatching certain episodes of the show. And so we have about, I don't know, 15 or so people on that. And so we
feels
asked
like
them.
more.
I know. It can get really chatty sometimes.
Yeah.
So we asked them what they thought. And so some of them said, sure. So I want to give a shout out to our rewatchers. We appreciate them. And we're so glad that you're listening to us because a lot of them said they were. So we're going to believe them. Kelsey is a person who's gone to several cons, and she went down to Columbus, and she said that she's kind of the same where she didn't really look at these people as heroes either, but she said that it also worked backwards for her. When she met Jensen, it's like she met him and had to have interactions with him several times, and then she really has grown to appreciate who he is based on that, not just based on the fact that he's an actor and he is gorgeous or whatever, that because of who he is and how he acts, that made her really start admiring him.
my friend Jen, who I started watching this show with, and she went to the con too. We went together. There's some of the actors she truly does admire, like Misha Collins.
Natural.
So he's somebody that she
has followed and that she would say she admires. And for her, she said that she was very nervous that they wouldn't live up to her expectations. I mean, we get this like separated view. We can only see like the social media side of things, which isn't real,
usually truthful.
It's the highlights.
Or real. It's the highlights, exactly. And for Jensen as well. And so for her, especially after we got to have our photo with Jensen, we walked out of the room and she took a breath and got very overwhelmed with emotion and started crying. And she, upon reflecting on it, realized that like it was kind of in relief in that, like, you know, you have this idea of who this person is, and then to meet them and you have that worry that they're not going to meet that expectation, but that, you know, he was who she thought he was. Was like really a relief.
Cool. Yes. Yeah, that's really cool. There's two other guys we didn't mention, which we have to mention because their names are Rich and Rob. They do a podcast.
They do two podcasts.
They do
together.
two podcasts, but one of them is the SPN Rewatch one. Dawn and I had the chance to meet them kind of more, I don't want to say intimate, but more of a smaller setting. Dawn did like a director's chat with Rich because he directs episodes. And then I did the meet and greet with Rob and Rich. And there was just 10 of us in the room with them and literally in a circle. And we just sat and talked and asked them questions. And it truly felt like you were just sitting down with just a friend.
Yes.
And they were so, you know, and they were hilarious. And we told them about our podcast. So I'm sure they're listening.
I gave them cards that had little QR codes so that they could go straight to it on Spotify or wherever. So
we listen to their podcast. It's only fair if they listen to ours. I adored them.
Yeah, they were really great. And you're right. It was such a cool conversation just to sit down talking with Rich and like the behind the scenes stuff.
Yeah.
Our particular sort of meet and greet thing was about like directing and producing, mostly TV because that's what Rich does mostly. Richard Spate Jr., for those who don't know. So folks were asking their questions and I leaned over and I said, well, I actually have a podcast question. And he was just like, oh, okay. The thing I enjoyed about that conversation was that our podcast experience was pretty much the same for him. And like the editing and what you choose to keep in and like how you keep the conversation flowing and everything.
It is interesting because Rich brings the color to the podcast and then Rob brings the more straightforward stuff. Like he takes notes. And so,
like some of us.
Yeah. So Dawn has notes and I bring the color. So I'm like, I'm Rich and you're Rob.
Great.
So I have another person that responded to us. Her name is Lindsay in our Rewatch group. And she said she's gone to several cons also. And she actually flew down from Canada to come to this one. But she said that she looks at them, the cast of Supernatural, more like friends and confidants. They were her rocks when she needed them most, like when watching the show and stuff. She's not intimidated by them at all. She says, even though they're gorgeous and famous, and obviously we're not actually friends, I see them as my equals. She said, they're down to earth, and we don't have to look up at them to them. Figuratively speaking, some of them are very tall. You got to look up. But she said, we can look across at them. So the ones that she really connects with the most were Brianna and Kim. And she said, I just feel like I can converse with them and talk to them.
And I think generally when you think of your heroes or you think of people that you like admire, that you kind of do put them on a pedestal. But to see them as like people that you can relate to and recognize their personhood.
The problem with putting a man or a woman on a pedestal is they're going to crash at some point. And if you've only elevated them, then you're going to crash with them because they didn't meet the expectations that you unfairly put on them.
Rhonda from our group sent me a message and she shared about how she's usually really calm and doesn't get excited about celebrities, but found herself having butterflies when she got to get an autograph from Jensen. And she was proud of herself. She kept her cool during, her interaction. But I think she kind of had that same overwhelm of emotion. What did she say? I melted. And she was able to keep herself together. But one of the cool things about this con and that she shares is that there are other people who are just as excited about this show and about these actors.
Yes.
That like she got to exchange a smile with like somebody else who had just experienced, meeting this person for the first time too.
Yeah. When you have those reactions, people aren't like, oh, get a grip on yourself. They're like, oh, I get it. Kathy in our group said that I think this was her first convention, her first supernatural convention. So that was one of the questions they asked a lot was like, who's first timer? And like 2/3 of the people in that building raised their hands. So Ohio really turned up for this. But Kathy said she'd only read positive things about the cast. Everybody's like, we love them. They're so kind. They're genuinely good people. And she's like, okay, these are fans. Is this like real?
Right.
And she was just like, you could tell that not only were they like that with people, but they enjoyed being with each other too. Like they enjoy getting together on these weekends and spending the time together. And they are truly grateful to their fandom. So like some of them are still working actors in other shows. They don't have to come to these conventions. They don't need the money. They're not hard up. They do it because they love the show, they love the fans, and they love each other. And she did say, though, that she had gone to a Creation Entertainment is who put on this convention. She said she went to one and she met somebody that she really thought she would like, and he was a huge disappointment. So that can happen too. I mean, that's part of it. But she said, the last thing she said, that this past weekend was the best weekend she's ever had. One of the best ones of her life.
That's pretty great.
Yeah.
I would say unforgettable. That what she said is really kind of on point, and that's kind of the fear of like meeting your heroes is, are they gonna be a huge disappointment?
Right.
Are they gonna be? But I would have to say resoundingly that's not the experience that we had
Oh, definitely not.
with this cast. I kind of actually gained an admiration for one of the actors. DJ Qualls, I've seen in some other movies and other things along the way. And the character he plays on Supernatural is in, like 5 episodes or something. I feel like it's not that many. We got an autograph from him and got to like talk to him. I actually found that I related to him on a lot of personal levels that I was not expecting.
Yeah.
Just having like a human conversation with him. And I'm like, you're one of my favorites now, and I didn't even know it until last weekend.
One thing that was cool about DJ, too, is he hosts karaoke night on Friday night. It's a free event, and he said that this is one of our ways of giving back. He's like, I know how much this costs a lot of you to come for this weekend, and he goes, this is a little thing that we can do. And so, of course, we'd be remiss without mentioning in karaoke that my Ashley and your Jen got to go on stage and sing with these actors in front of hundreds of people. They did karaoke. They did an awesome job.
They did.
Proud of them.
Hey, y'all. So it's Dawn here. I am interjecting because I got to meet an author while we were at the Supernatural convention, and I forgot to share about it while Jenny and I were recording. So I wanted to, jump in and just tell you about this cool lady. So the author's name is Andrea Hurt. This author also makes emotional support pillows that are in the shape of or not in the shape, but kind of in the style of different characters. And she writes books, and this is what she does for her job. She makes these cool pillows, and she writes. And I just thought, that's the dream, right? She gets to travel around with these conventions, sell her books, and sell her pillows that she makes. She told me she writes for a couple hours a day and spends the rest of the day sewing. Her name is Andrea Hurt. I think I said that already. And Hurt is Hurtt. So there's 2 T's on the end. She's an author, a voice actor, audiobook narrator, crafter, vendor. So I had to ask her, I was like, how did you get into writing? And so she actually said it was the con, going to these conventions. She had an interaction with another author named Stacey Marie Brown, where Brown said to her, well, what are you writing? And Andrea was like, well, how did you know I even write? Because it wasn't something she was doing professionally at the time. She started out as writing, this is the best, Backstreet Boys fan fiction, and got into writing. Some of what she wrote became, I think, kind of not specifically the show Supernatural, but the whole like Supernatural theme stories is what she writes a lot of now. And she just gets to travel with these supernatural conventions and sell her books and sell her pillows. And I just thought that was like the coolest thing. And so she gets to like build relationships with people who go to these conventions. She gets to know a lot of like the actors and the other people who work for Creation Entertainment that puts the conventions on. So the last thing that Andrea gave me was a book recommendation. She suggested Sword of the Guardian by Mary Shannon, and Mary is Merry Shannon. If you like fantasy, if you like supernatural things, you can check out Andrea Hurt's books and her book recommendation, Sword of the Guardian by Mary Shannon. So that's my little interjection. Thanks for letting me squeeze in there, I guess. I was trying to think outside of this because this was a major event. We got to meet a lot of people in a short period of time. If there were any other like famous quote unquote people that I've met. And the thing that I realized is that the word famous is kind of relative because depending on, you can say a name and in one circle, people will be like, oh,
sure,
so-and-so. But in another circle, other people who maybe haven't watched Supernatural or don't know any of these actors are going to be like, y'all are a little excited about this. So I was trying to think about, what other semi-famous or whatever people might I have met. And we also asked some of our coworkers too. And I realized, I was like, oh, I've met the members of this one punk rock band. But if nobody listens to, early 2000s punk rock, they have no idea who I'm talking about. Mm-hmm. And then we have the authors that have come to our author festival. And some of them, like, people have maybe read like Alex Erickson because he's got quite a bit. But if you don't read, and especially if you don't read Cozy Mysteries, you're going to be like, who's that guy?
Yeah.
So it really depends on like who you're talking to as far as if they're going to know who that person is.
Mm-hmm. Like you said, we asked some other people that we worked with. And also my mom met, she was a teenager. She met Herman from Herman's Hermits. Probably never heard of him, but this is like
Is that one of those oldies radio station bands?
I don't know, probably 50s, 60s, but I know that my mom has told this story since I was little. He kissed her cheek, and that was like the biggest deal. I don't know. She's 7 years old. I don't know if she's ever washed her face fully because of him kissing her. Just kidding, Mom.
And I know she listens.
Yeah.
That's great.
That was, so she shared that, how really special and cool that was for her back, I don't know when that would have been, probably late 60s or something.
Okay,
yeah.
So I was talking to Marcia yesterday, and she told me that she served leftovers to Franklin Graham. Yeah. So if you know who Billy Graham is, Franklin Graham is his son. And I said, Marcia, you have to tell me the story. You served leftovers to Billy Graham's son. She was volunteering with a friend of hers. They were serving at this camp the Samaritan's Purse was restoring for veterans. Mm-hmm. Marcia and her friend were in charge of food, and they decided for lunch this particular day they were going to just kind of clean out the fridge and serve leftovers. And it just so happened that Franklin Graham was having lunch with them that day. So, like...
Did she get to meet him? Or
she did. Okay. She actually said she apologized to him for serving leftovers, and he was very gracious and, kind about it. He wasn't, like, upset or anything, but...
That is really funny.
I feel like that's just a unique experience to have.
I mean...
Speaking of unique experiences, Tammy, our children's department manager, got to have like a
walk-on.
A walk-on on the Drew Carey show. And got to meet the cast of Drew Carey. She and some of her family had won a contest. Mm-hmm. She said Drew Carey isn't exactly like her hero, but it was a cool experience to like get to have a walk on. And I guess if you watch whatever episode they're in the background. She also talked about getting to meet different authors at National Library conventions. And I mean, for us being library workers, like authors are kind of also our big celebrities too. She said she always found it interesting when you got to meet them when they would be like signing books. They would be, even like really well-known authors would just be people. Right. She said, of course, very talented, hardworking people, but most of them were just gracious and funny and very down to earth.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they are. They are just people. Yeah.
That's the thing that I always try to keep in mind with like anybody who is some kind of celebrity is that like they're just people.
Right.
What's the saying? We all put our pants on one leg at a time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I graduated from Dalton, and so Chris Kirkpatrick, which I talked about before, is on NSYNC. And so he obviously, when he attended Dalton, he wasn't in NSYNC, but he is now. And so it's like I'm just like one step away from Justin Timberlake, you know?
Exactly.
So
That
we're
is exactly right.
practically best friends.
You're
you know,
basically
because I
besties.
went to school with Chris. I know. So
Exactly.
it is. It's exactly the same thing. I'm glad that you appreciate that and recognize it.
Corey, who works in the adult department and children's, just got back from vacation. She went to Colorado Springs with her family. But they kind of had a surprising interaction with somebody who, again, if you're in the right circle, would be famous, quote unquote. This woman who is an artist named Lynn, I don't want to mispronounce any name ever. I'm going to say Pittard. It's Pittard. Corey said she'd never heard of her, but she was an artist and a teacher that had her own TV art series on PBS at the same time as Bob Ross. So now Corey's basically like a step away from Bob Ross, right? On that logic.
Well, definitely. If he were still around, they would be best friends.
They had like an Airbnb, and it turned out... So they found out that Corey's son is like into art and sketching and things, and they found themselves connected with Lynn, this artist, and she ended up like giving them a tour of her studio.
Oh, cool.
And she sent them home with like personalized paintbrushes and prints and books and all kinds of stuff. They just by chance got to meet this woman, and that she was just very upbeat and positive. And I went to her website, which is lynnpittard.com, to look at some of her artwork. I have over here, because with my dumb notes.
Can you see it?
With my dumb, you can see it if you go to her website.
Yeah.
But like, it's really phenomenal artwork. And they just like
It's
completely
gorgeous.
by chance got to meet this woman, and she was just like so kind and
That's really cool.
shared a little bit of her world with them.
When we lived in Hilton Head, South Carolina, my mom was out to eat, and a friend of hers was like, hey, over there, that's John Jakes. He's an author, and he wrote the books North and South, which were huge in the 80s because they did a TV miniseries of each of the books, which Patrick Swayze was in. And so my mom went over and said, could I get your autograph for my daughter, like on a napkin? And she's like, she's a big fan. And he goes, okay, but let her know I don't know Patrick Swayze. And my mom's like, no, she's read your books too.
That's hilarious.
Yeah. So that was pretty cool. I think I still have the napkin with his signature on it.
So what do you think about the adage, never meet your heroes, after this experience?
I think that, like you said, the fandom that we are actually part of is probably a little more unique than other ones. Like I said, these actors, the cast, they truly like each other. They like the fans, and they like to come to these things. I think some people, if they do a movie or whatever and they have a convention, it's because they have to promo the movie and they don't necessarily want to be there. And they don't necessarily like the people that they worked with either. And I think that it could go either way. It could go... For us, for you and me, it was absolutely 100% positive experience, and we're both trying to figure out a way to make money so we can go next year.
If you would like to donate to our Supernatural
that's
Convention
right.
Fund.
Yeah. I think that it could probably go either way. We were fortunate. We weren't disappointed. Other people have been disappointed.
I think that the key for experiences, whether it's actors or authors or whoever that
Sports people.
that you have a chance to meet, is to like manage your own expectations, to understand that at the end of the day, this is just a person, and then let yourself, live in the moment. If you are a fan of an Ohio author, there are so many book festivals throughout the state of Ohio, and I would highly encourage you to go to any festival that like an author that you even read one of their books, because the thing I found about meeting authors and even like these actors is that they want to interact with people who enjoy their work.
Yeah, they're so appreciative.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So absolutely At least I would say.
And
Meet
we
your
have
heroes.
Mindy McGinnis coming here in July, right?
In August.
Oh, August.
In
Okay,
August.
August.
On August 8th, Mindy
Okay.
McGinnis will be here. Yeah.
Yeah. I met her and
She
we
was at
interviewed
our-
her and she was, so that's going to be fun. The fact that we're bringing in another author, because we had Greg Olson a couple months ago, I think that's really cool. And I hope that we continue to do that a couple a year or whatever. Yeah. So what do we have coming up in July?
Well, already before this came out, we had Cookbook Club. Following next week, then on the 11th, we're going to have a teen program called the Ozobot Olympics. So Ozobots are these little, I think, cute robots. And we're going to do some challenges to see if you can like code them and get them to do fun, cool, different things. So that's for grades 6 to 12. And there's no registration for the Ozobot Olympics.
And you're leading that?
I am leading that.
That's
yes.
really cool. And that's July 11th, but then also continuing July 11th, 18th, and 25th will be our brick builders. What is the age limits on that?
So that is actually kindergarten through 6th grade. It's
Okay.
all
right.
children, and it's from 4 to 5 p.m. It's about an hour long program.
Okay.
Yeah. Building with Legos and making all kinds of cool creations for that. Also have Teen Book Box registration that starts on the 15th, and that pickup for that will be August 5th through the 10th.
All right. Oh, and July 22nd is Shark Week. What does that mean?
That is something that our director's putting on because she likes to have a little fun program here or there. So we'll have some different activities throughout the library related to Shark Week.
Are we going to have a pet a shark?
We're totally not going to have a live shark in the library.
Darn. Okay. I'll still come.
On the 26th, which is a Friday, we'll have Teen Tie-Dye. There's going to be 2 sessions of that. You do want to sign up for that if you can, starting on the 8th. That just lets me know who all is coming, and we provide everything for it. So when you register, it lets me know your T-shirt size, so I can be sure to have enough T-shirts for everybody to
That's
tie-dye.
always so popular. The kids love that. And
It's a
you love
great
it too. And then
It's great.
Then July 27th, we will be at the Maker Extravaganza at the Wayne County Fairgrounds from 9 to 3. Is that going to be in their new event center?
Yes.
Okay. There will be lots of STEAM activities for all ages that we're promoting, or is that just
We will
overall?
We will be there. We will have the Ozobots there as well.
Okay.
And then there's all kinds of stuff. There's like robotics, and I think last year at the Maker Fair, there was somebody who built a car.
Oh.
The Green Local Schools brought this 3D printer that they have that uses clay as a medium. So it like 3D prints things out of clay. There's just all kinds of different awesome stuff.
Cool.
It's going to be even bigger and better this year since they've moved over to the event center at the fairgrounds.
Awesome. And also be checking our calendar because our van is back out
Back in action,
in the
yes.
summer, and there is a new face there. Her name is Beth.
Yep, they'll be doing some stops at Orr Park and Gailey Park. You can check out the library calendar. You can stop into the library. We've got a calendar of all the community stops happening this summer.
This was a lot of fun for Dawn and I to record this because we were both so excited just about going to that event, and we're like, let's talk about it. And it was fun to hear other people's perspectives. I don't know, maybe we'll get some new Supernatural fans,
If there are other shows or books or things that you are super fans of, come
us
to the
know.
library, let us know. If you want to get into a new show or a new thing, we can help you find it.
So
All right. Well, thanks for listening.
see you at the library.